So in this video on our M365 AI's 2026 series, we're actually going to go ahead and set up our GPT endpoint within Microsoft Foundry so that way we can use it within Power Automate. Again, our goal is to leverage the Power Platform as much as possible, leveraging their skill set and the experience that we have there, and incorporate AI to start building smart business applications in Microsoft 365 with AI capabilities. So because we're transitioning, actually, if you've been following the series, if you haven't, you definitely want to check out the playlist. If you follow the series in the previous video, we talked about what to look out for in some of the transitionings that's happening in Azure when it comes to Azure OpenAI and Microsoft Foundry. So we have both of these options here. And really, everything we need is in Azure OpenAI. It's actually going to be a much simpler deployment. But I'm going to walk you through setting up the features, the deployment models that we will get from OpenAI traditionally in the classic form in Microsoft Foundry, because this is where Microsoft is going. And eventually, they will phase out this Azure OpenAI. So I'm going to just click on Microsoft Foundry. In this tenant is freshly minted. It was actually a trial that I set up, I think, 27 days ago. And it looks like I have 3 days to spend $140, so that free $200 credit. But this is a freshly minted tenant. The only thing I set up was my subscription, and I'm the owner of that subscription. And I also have a resource group, and I have owner access to that resource group. And those permission levels are important because you want to make sure you have the rights and the permissions to do what we're about to do now. So here, now that I'm in Foundry, I have these three options. I want to do create resource. And once this load, that's my subscription. That's my trial that I have cooking right now. And then this is my resource group that I'm going to go ahead and put this into. And I'm going to just go ahead and name this the Power Agent. This is going to be my Power Agent MS Foundry service. Now, I'm actually going to select East US 2. From my experience and based on what I'm seeing in my research, a lot of the latest models and capabilities will be part of that East US 2. So right now, OpenAI GPT 5.2 is available. It may be available in East US, but they're usually deployed to East US 2 first. And then I think after GA or some time period, they're available in the other regions. So I'm going to go ahead and use East US 2 for a wider scope, wider capability. And then my default project name, I'm going to go ahead and give this a more meaningful project name. So I'm going to call this the Power Agents default project. And I'm prefixing everything with Power Agent because Power Agent S is the name of my tenant, right? So this is the name of my tenant. So this may be your org tenant. This may be your org name. This may be your division name, wherever the case may be. But this is why I'm prefixing everything in that way. So instead of doing review and create, I do want to go into the level of detail. So I'm going to click next here. And here, all of these will have a KeyVault and they will have a application insight. So here, once I click on select the KeyVault, I'm going to go ahead and create new because I want to have more control over the naming convention. So this is Power Agents KeyVault. And I'm giving these generic names. Like these don't have these services like the KeyVault Application Insight, the Blob Storage, the Cosmo DB, the AI Search have nothing to do with Microsoft AI Foundry specifically. So I'm giving these a generic naming convention. So that way these are common services that will be used anytime I need a KeyVault. I'm going to use the Power Agents KeyVault. And anytime I need application insights, I'm going to leverage that service. So these are not unique to Microsoft Foundry. I'm going to go ahead and correct the spelling here. I didn't realize I spelled that incorrectly. So correct the spelling there. And then I'm going to go ahead and click add. So now I have the add. I'm going to do the same thing for application insights. I'm going to create that there. So that's going to be my application insight. Again, I just named these so that way I have control over the naming convention and not taking some arbitrary name that the wizard is giving me. So here under App Agent Services, this is where I create those additional services. And this is part of the overhead that you get with Microsoft Foundry versus Azure OpenAI. If you decide not to follow this video and create Azure OpenAI and then retrofit it once you're forced to go to Microsoft Foundry, actually, that's A-okay. And actually, for my previous tenants and my previous setup, that's exactly what we've done. Because you don't need all these additional services. The way I'm looking at these additional services, these are just in case you need this service. it's already provisioned and primed and ready to go. And we may not hit that just in case for months or towards the end of the year in 2026. I don't know. Like we may start building agents within Microsoft Foundry. I'm not sure yet. But as of now, we don't really have a need for that in the Power Platform. So if you skip this step and go Azure OpenAI, you're gonna miss a lot of this overhead. But just in case you're prepping yourself for future proofing, we're going to go down these steps. So here I'm gonna go ahead and select resources. And these are the three that is asking me to set up: my Cosmo DB, my AI search, and my storage account. This option here for deployments, this is if I'm already have an Azure AI service running and I have deployments available that I want to tie into my Azure Microsoft Foundry. I don't have that scenario, so I'm gonna go ahead and create my Cosmo DB AI search and storage account. All right, so here I do want to pause for AI search. I'm creating this Power Agents AI search. I am selecting the basic SKU. And the reason why, now to get full capability from this is one thing you should be aware of, but it doesn't apply for us if you're following my model in the framework. You will need a higher SKU if you're using the vector capabilities and you're using skills to enrich your chunking and vector and your data and put a metadata on your vector search and AI search. We're not touching that because we're actually, again, our solutions do not require AI search because we're going to use Cosmo DB as our vector database. So here, just so that I don't get because that's the thing with the higher SKUs, here's the gotcha. With the higher SKUs, there's a minimum payment you have to pay every month for the higher SKUs to enable some of those AI-rich features within AI search. Because we're not using AI search in that way, we're getting away with the basic, which I believe is zero additional cost. Like this is really truly usage-based. So just be aware of that. That's the other thing that you have to be careful with when it comes to Microsoft Foundry is that if you just go through this wizard and click, you can find yourself with I can't remember what it was. It was like $72 a month minimum payment because of certain features that you enable with these underlying services that Microsoft Foundry uses. Okay, so let's go ahead with our storage account. All right, so there's my Power Agent storage account. It won't let me use hyphens, so I couldn't get a really pretty label on this one, but that's fine. I'm gonna go ahead and click add, and I'm gonna go ahead and select those from my list of resources, click next. Everything else, I think I'm gonna just take the default selection. So for the network, I want this to be open to where I'm not restricting internet access or anything like that. Identity, I'm gonna do system assigned. Encryption, I'm gonna leave that default. I don't have any tag, I'm leaving that default. Here's my summary screen, so now I can review this. As soon as it gives me the green light, I'm gonna go ahead and click create. Okay, so I have the green light, so go ahead and hit create here. And now it's going through this deployment process. It should give me a list of all the services it's going to deploy for me. I guess it has this deployment script or something along those lines. So I'll wait for this to finish cooking, then I'll come back to you. Okay, so I think for the most part, my deployment is still in progress. But if I look at the different steps in the individual status, I think some of the key ones are done. I did get an error in this one for application insights. You notice that I got the error. If I click on the detail, what it's telling me is that there is a Microsoft operational insight provider is not enabled at the subscription level. So that's something I need to go at the subscription level and enable. But again, I don't need application insights. Again, that's that overhead that you have with Microsoft Foundry. My whole goal is to deploy the bare minimum services and at zero cost unless I'm using it, right? I don't want any default cost per month for any one of these services, but at least I have a baseline and a core in my Microsoft Foundry. Now, I'm going to see if I can skip this step because really at the end of the day, all I really wanted to accomplish in this video is to deploy our endpoint. If I can deploy our endpoint without having that piece done, then I'm going to circle back and just chalk it up to tech debt and provide application insights later. For now, let me see how far it will let me go. So if I go back to my dashboard, let me hit refresh, make sure the latest and greatest is showing for me. Okay, so here's my Power Agent MS Foundry. That's going to be my Microsoft Foundry. Unlike all the other services that you have in Azure where you can use this left navigation, I guess they call it like these are different blades to kind of set like access control and set up other settings or provision other features or capability. This one actually has a different experience. This is both for Microsoft Foundry as well as Azure OpenAI. They both have different experiences that once you get to this overview, I'm always looking for this button here to go to the portal. Okay, perfect. So now that I'm on this portal, what I need to do now is deploy my GPTs or my endpoints. So I'm going to go to my model catalog, and this is going to show me all 1,500 models that are available to me in Microsoft Foundry across all the various collections. So if I look at this, you see some DeepSeek models. You got the GPT models by OpenAI. You have your O1 series models. You have your Claude models provided by Anthropic. You have your Grok models provided by XAI. You have your Llama models provided by Meta, so on and so forth. So you got a whole host of these models available. Now, what you can do, you can filter this collection. And this is, again, if you're working with business data and you're doing anything more than just a POC, I'm only looking at Direct-from-Azure models. And again, this is what I mentioned in the previous video of those models provided by Azure. These Direct-from-Azure models are actually copies of the models. Once deployed, would be managed and hosted in your tenant, either through a virtual machine or some type of a server infrastructure or some type of serverless infrastructure. More importantly, is governed and bound within your Azure tenant, and none of your data leaves your tenant to be hosted by the third party who created this model. So you have your own copy of the model, and these are the models as of January 2026 that are provided by Azure and curated by Microsoft. Right? So critical item here. Now, this also becomes still a head scratcher because it's, okay, great. Now at least I know which ones are direct from Azure. So I know I'm dealing with safe models here, but still, which one of these do we actually need? Now, this is going to change over time, but this is my model, right? For lack of a better term. I want a general model, really the latest and greatest, the smartest one I can get. I want to put that in my portfolio. I want a reasoning model. And again, with the GPT 5.1, so the GPT 5.2, you're going to get both a standard and reasoning model baked into one because OpenAI is trying to get away from these different model series just for a different work. So I want a standard model for all my chats in different level of smarts. I want a reasoning model for deep thinking for very complex tasks. I want a mini model for my general workhorse, right? And I want a nano model or something that's extremely fast to where the token prices are a fraction of the price of the cost, but yet I get the smarts I needed. And those would be things like, hey, here's a comment, give me the sentiment analysis, something very low level, something very simple that a nano can provide. And I really want those 4 different classes of models available to me in Power Automate. So again, this is always going to change, but and the caveat to that is, as of the date of this recording, January of 2026, those are the 4 types of models I'm looking for. But the caveat is some of the best ones that I really want require registration. And to date, I haven't received any approvals of my registrations, which is extremely frustrating. So all I can do is just look at these beautiful, powerful models and not take advantage of them. So let's go through here and figure out which one of these we want. So the flagship, as of right now, by OpenAI is GPT 5.2. So if I search on 5.2 here in the search box, that's going to help me from having to do all the scroll. Now, the flagship is the GPT 5.2, but you also have the next best scenario, which is GPT 5.2 chat. And this is going to be my workhorse, right? This is going to be, if you look at them as different vehicle types, so you're going to need like a motorcycle, you're going to need like a sedan, you're going to need like a SUV, you're going to need like a pickup truck, and then you're going to need like the big dually or the semi truck, right? Your F450 or whatever the case may be. So you're going to need like a big workhorse. That's what I'm looking to provide here. Now, the big workhorse really is going to be this GPT 5.2, but if I click inside of it, this is where the frustration begins, because in order to get access to this flagship, the registration is required. And again, I filled out probably 5 of these to date and have not received any feedback. It wasn't approved. I wasn't denied. I just didn't get any feedback that I was in. Maybe you have to be a different class tenant or a different class customer to get access to this model. So because that's not available to us or to me, it may be available to you, I'm going with the next best thing. So I'm going to go with the 5.2 chat. This one does not require a registration. So here I'm going to go ahead and start the deployment process. So if I click on use this model, it pops open this dialog. For the deployment name, I used to get fancy and rename these. Oh, this is GPT Fast or GPT 5.2 for marketing or whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, this is really a way for you to manage these. And I also saw that you're not going to deploy many of these models under this subscription, because this next one, when you click on customize here and you look at this tokens per minute rate limit, that's going to be per subscription, not resource group for this subscription. So they actually want you to create another subscription tied to some type of payment method to give you a fresh set of quota capabilities. So here I'm gonna maximize this at 50,000 tokens per minute, where I can make 500 requests per minute. Again, this is my semi truck. Like, this is the biggest workhorse of them all, really meant for very complex scenarios. So I'm gonna go ahead and deploy this. Okay, so now that we have that one, let's go back to our catalog and deploy our next one. And the next one is really going to be my GPT mini series. And really for this one, from a GPT mini series, this is going to be like my default. If the caller, like you will see this when we set up our Power Automate. So if this is our low level common core services, and then above that would be our business application level. At the business application level is where they say, hey, I want to call this common service and I need deep reasoning or deep thinking, or I need to do some research with web data, or I need to summarize this text or summarize this contract, and they don't specify a model, right? When you don't specify a model in our architecture design, it's going to be OpenAI mini series. And here I just want to grab the latest one that I can that does not require a registration, and that's going to be 04 mini. So here, no, actually 04 mini, sorry, I misspoke. 04 mini, I still need 04 mini, but I also need like the latest GPT-5 mini. But the 04, the O series is going to give me reasoning first model, right? You know how you talk about these models are specialists in certain aspects, right? So this is going to be a deep reasoning first model, not really meant for chat or chat history, but really more so like, I have this problem. Here's the system prompt. Here's a huge prompt from the user message about the problem. And you get to set the different levels of thinking that you want, or levels of reasoning that you want. That's going to be my 04 mini. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy this. And for this one, again, I'm going to leave this 04 mini. The deployment type, I'm going to leave as global standard. And for the tokens per minute, I'm okay with 100,000. I can always adjust this later in the future, but I'm going to select these default values and go ahead and deploy this one as well. All right, so next I'm going to the model catalog. This is going to be my GPT-5 mini. Again, this is going to be my general workhorse. When you don't specify a model, this would be the one that you will get access to, or the one that would be used. Okay, so filter on this one. Again, the only reason why I'm using GPT-5 mini versus GPT-5.1 mini or GPT-5.2 mini is because this is the latest one that I have access to. And again, I'm always looking at the latest one that I have access to and the one that does not require a registration. All right, so this is going to be my general workhorse. Let's go ahead and deploy this one, GPT-5 mini. All right, and then the last one we want to deploy is going to be our nano. Again, this is going to be our motorcycle. This is the one that kind of zips around, no really heavy tasks, but you only get a simple response, simple summary, nothing too heavy, not too much deep reasoning, a fraction of the cost here. You can look at the cost here. 69 cents for every million tokens used. Like this very simple. Sorry, that's the wrong one. I'm looking for nano. Let me go back. All right, so let me go down here, filter on nano. Again, zip around, little moped, motorcycle, cutting through traffic. This is our guy. Let's go ahead and deploy this one. This one's going to be 14 cents. I saw that you can see it here in the little corner. It's grayed out, but it's going to be 14 cents per million tokens. Oh, I didn't talk about this, but this is one thing to keep in mind of. The deployment type. So some of these, like you have global standard, which is the default, and this is going to be the cheapest. But then you have local zone standard and then data zone standard. And certain models only support certain deployment types. The difference between these is global would be you can use any country to do these deployments, right? So it may be hosted in a server that's in a different country. Usually they try to keep it within your region. It could be a different server. You just give them the flexibility to answer that request, right? So global deployed models that are still private and secure. The local zone is really when you need to adhere to GDPR or where data residency requirements, right? And that's going to be your local zone. The local zone says wherever you deploy this, like whatever country you deploy this model in using your location or deployment, then it will, all requests and all responses will come from that country. And we have that around the globe where certain countries that says for any employee who's a citizen of this country, any data that you're using from them must stay within this boundary. So that's what these deployment types are. For our intents and purpose, I always use global standard unless I'm working with a scenario or a client to where that GDPR is a thing and we must adhere to that. Okay, so now if I want to take a look at everything that I have deployed, I'm just using this left navigation here, going down to models and endpoints. And once I click on that, now it's going to show me all the models that I have deployed and have available to me. So now it's all a matter of clicking on these models, grabbing the URI endpoint that's needed to call it, and then also grabbing the key that's needed to authenticate and make the call. And that's what we're going to do in the next video. Let's just go ahead and start bringing these models inside of our Power Automate, define our solution for our common core, and start building our stack up from the bottom up. So that way we can build this reusable platform and Power Automate to build smart business applications on the Microsoft 365 stack.